This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know. Some rockstar dads who started a show. So here's the next episode.
Welcome to the Rockstar Dad Show. It's me, Oh, shit, I forgot the music. Wait, let's leave this in. Hold on. Welcome to the Rockstar Dad Show.
There we go.
Yeah.
Where are we at on getting like
our own
real music?
I know. I gotta get Linus to do that. I would do it myself, but I just don't ever sit down and do stuff like that.
You know, this is a cool deal, but it's like I'm not quite sure if we're introing a show or about to play like a old 90s video game.
It does sound like that, right? Or like, it sounds like we're on commercial break on like some sort of a channel that doesn't have advertisers, you know? So like, It's just a screen and then that's there. Hey, Gary.
Yeah, what's up?
How's it going?
It's going good. You know, one thing I've got going on right now is I'm a little sunburned because we hung out in the pool the other day.
Yeah, I can see it too. Like you're just on your face. You just red.
Here's the deal. I always buy either like at minimum 50 SPF. Like I'm usually like 70 or 100, right?
Right.
And I think my wife, she always gives me guff. She's like, anything over 50 doesn't do anymore. You're wasting money. And I'm like, I don't care. I buy 70, I buy 100, and I don't get sunburned. So I'm happy with that outcome, right? Mm-hmm. And whenever we were heading over to the pool the other day, I grabbed 100 and I started spraying it and it just died. Ah, crap, right? So I go and I find another bottle and it was 30. And so I did spray on some 30. And then as we were at the pool longer, like I tried to spray some more and the bottle died.
I watched you
sunburned.
I watched you reapply and I didn't. And I actually thought to myself, maybe I should get out and reapply. And I don't know. Once I'm in, I don't like to get out, you know? I mean, it's you know, unless the child needs me for something, you know, or I need to poop. But, you know, anything else, you know, I'm in there. Yeah, I got a really bad sunburn on vacation. I went on vacation for my birthday, and we haven't talked about that trip. I have a couple of stories that I'll tell you in coming episodes, but I did that thing where I tried to put my own sunscreen on. Mm-hmm. And really, to be fair, you can sort of do that when you reapply, but you really need somebody to put it on you to get started. You know,
get your base layer. Like they say that you're supposed to put the cream on first and then you can use the spray for reapplications and you're all good. But man, I got so sunburned, I got blistered. And it reminded me, the last time I was sunburned like that was the time that we were in the van and we were on tour in Florida and we stopped in Palm Springs, Florida. And it was just still the band and Sweet Charlie. Yep.
And we bought, did we not even have like boogie boards where we just we were like body surfing?
Yeah,
right?
We were just body surfing. Yeah. We had a beach ball and our bodies.
And we did that for hours and hours. And little did we know we were on a private beach, but you know, it was so private that nobody came and told us we had to leave. And, but I got so sunburned. We all did. You got so sunburned that we, so on the song, Bowling for Soup song, BFFF, you rubbed aloe vera on my sunburned back. You rubbed aloe on my back. You ran the fence when I got my pants. Anyway, that song during that part, that's what I'm talking about. Was when we got so sunburned. But I don't envy it. You know what sucks about that is if you're burned bad enough, it's like in 2 days you're gonna itch and it really blows.
Yeah, so that's the thing is I was thinking about this. That story you just told about Florida is probably the last time I was really sunburned. Mm-hmm. And I'm not nearly that bad. I got the thing where like I got home that night and like I was hot, you know?
Yeah.
But that's, you know, I was fine. I'm fine now. Like I'm still a little red, but it doesn't hurt anymore.
Coming up on the show, Jamey Jasta from the band Hatebreed. This guy's got a lot going on. New album coming out. He has a big festival in Milwaukee that he's promoting, a big artist-owned metal fest, which sounds like a blast, actually.
Yeah. And it's at one of the coolest venues in the country.
Yeah, 70 freaking bands. Yeah,
Woo.
is it at that venue where the Black Crowes did the backstage?
Yeah, I think that's what he said.
What's that venue called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. I can't remember.
It's the old Eagles place.
Yeah, that's right. No. I know. Yeah, that's it. It's that place. But anyway, you can go to JameyJasta.com, JameyJasta.com, and check out all of that stuff. He has a 600 episode podcast, and like he's been doing it since 2014, and everybody knows the band Hatebreed.
Yeah,
and just what a swell guy. I'm excited to talk to him in a little bit. Now you have some vacation follies. You know, I heard that getting ready for vacation was a bit of I don't want to say nightmare, but
no, it wasn't a nightmare, but it was an unexpected, horrible hurdle that we had. We were leaving for spring break a couple weeks ago. We were supposed to leave on Thursday, so we were going to take the kids out of school Thursday and Friday before spring break ended, and we were going to fly to New York, have a night in New York, and then leave on a cruise. Well, here's what happened the week before we left is Monday morning, Mia had a cough, and she woke up that morning and was kind of just sluggish. And, you know, I was like, she's in kindergarten. We're just going to keep her home for the day, try to help her get over this cough, get better before the cruise starts. She can miss a few days of, you know, finger painting and tag at recess. It's fine, right? And so I kept her home. And then later that day, I kind of just started feeling a little bit weird. And Anik was at work. And so this is probably like 3:00 in the afternoon. And I just text her. I go, hey, how are you feeling? And she immediately responds, funny you should ask. Tyler's throwing up at school. The nurse just called. You have to go get him.
Oh, no.
I'm like, crap. Okay. So I take Mia to my mom's house and go pick up Tyler. Well, 3:00. By the time I get there, it's like 3:40, and like this is when cars are starting to line up for pickup, right? And so I park and I go into the office and I say, I got a call from the nurse that I need to come pick up my son. And so they call, and he's supposed to be coming over to the office so I can check him out. Well, while I'm sitting there waiting for him, my stomach starts feeling horrible, and I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm going to throw up. And I'm like looking around the office, like, where's the trash can? What am I going to do? And I just asked the lady, I like, can I go outside and he'll just come out when I get there? And she goes, yeah. And so I walk out the front door of the school and just blah, everywhere, right?
Wow.
In front of the line of cars waiting for their kids. So I'm sure that looked really weird. A grown man walking out of the school, ralphing. But anyways, he and I get in the car and we both drive home, just trying not to get sick again. And so we get home, and I mean, it's one of those like stomach flus where it just knocks us both out. You're either asleep or throwing up or on the toilet for the next 2 days. Anik comes home early from work that day. And so she kind of helps, you know, get us ready, get us settled, whatever. And then later that night at like 11:00 at night, she's sick. So for 3 days before we're leaving town for spring break, we're all just, you know, bedridden, sick, sleeping, sore, achy, all the flu stuff, right? And that's just bad timing because we're supposed to be getting ready to leave town, and all that stuff is out the window. So yeah, we had a unexpected, not great time trying to get out of town for spring break.
Man, and it's so scary, like, to me, because the thing is, like, if you get a sinus infection, right, like, you sort of could power through and go on vacation and, like, with your meds and know that you're going to be fine in like a day or two. But a stomach thing, you know, like, because I've only had like a full-blown stomach flu once. Knock on this synthetic wood apparatus that my mic is on. Did you hear that? I'm knocking on it.
There you go.
But it lasted 4 or 5 days, you know, but that was many, many years ago. So most of the time now when you have a stomach thing, it lasts like 24, maybe 36 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
But still, you finding yourself on an airplane and then waiting in line to get on a boat and then on a boat and all of that with stomach stuff. And we all know what that entails without getting gross.
Yeah.
And also with little ones with that, you know, like that's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I mean, we were sitting there going, hey, are we canceling this thing? And we weren't like irresponsible. We weren't in line and still sick. We didn't get on the boat still sick, right? There's a couple of days before we went on the boat where like all the symptoms and fever and all that stuff were gone, right?
Yeah.
But you're still recovering from it. You're still just worn out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Son of a bitch in pants. Was it fun once y'all got there? I mean, like, everybody felt fine, like the day y'all left and stuff?
Yeah. Once, like the day we actually left, everyone's, getting their energy back and able to eat food and stuff. So like, yeah, it was the travel day wasn't bad. I've got so many funny little stories about the kids because, me had never been to a lot of these places. Like, we get to the airport in New York, and it's one of those like glittery kind of floor things, Yeah. And we're walking through this airport, and Mia's like, Dad, why is there glitter all over the floor? And I'm just joking with her. I go, I called ahead and told them that you love glitter, so they'd put glitter all over the floor. She's like, oh, wow. And then whenever we get to Manhattan, we're staying down close to Times Square, and, they've got like that black asphalt, but it's got like sparkly stuff all in it. And she's like, Dad, they got more glitter. I go, yeah, I called ahead. I told you. And so the next day, whenever we're getting on the boat at like the pier, walking in, there's all this glitter stuff. And she goes, Dad, more glitter? You've got to stop calling ahead.
That's so amazing. Just it's so funny that they're so observant, because she's 5, right? And man, and such a outgoing little girl. Never, I mean, like, especially as being so shy and so just like attached to your wife, for the first few years of just like doesn't want anybody to look at her, and now she is just like, I mean, walked into the area with the pool the other day and was just like, I am here we go, I am lying.
I mean, we just traveled, okay? We went to New York, we were in the airport, we went to a hotel, we go to the boat. It doesn't matter where we're at, within 2 minutes of anywhere we stop, like sit down, put your bags down, whatever. Within 2 minutes, she's made friends with some other little kid.
Oh, man. I heard that maybe I think you were telling me that she might have had a conversation on the plane that was kind of funny.
Oh, boy. Yeah. So on the way home, Tyler and I are sitting in one row, and then there's an aisle, and then Anik and Mia were on the other row. Both kids get to have a window that way, right?
Yeah.
And so Mia's on the window, Anik's in the middle, and then there's another lady on the aisle, and this other lady has, maybe a 6-month-old. It's a little baby. And Mia is just talking to this mom and this little baby the whole, 3.5 hour flight, just chatting them up, telling them everything in the world, right? Well, at one point, I hear Mia tell this lady, she goes, I love babies, and I just like babies, and well, my mama likes babies. She works with babies, and so we both love babies. But my dad, he only likes his kids. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and you're just back there, and when y'all stand up, you got to be like, oh yeah, hi, I'm the only like my own kids guy.
Yeah, no, actually, I just stood up and gave her a glare.
Yeah, like, no. Fuck you and your kids.
Yeah, get out of my way.
Oh man, I'm glad you guys had a good trip though. Good trip all around. I mean, did you? Let me ask you this: did you go to Bermuda on this trip?
So it was scheduled to go to Bermuda,
right?
But I think while we were out there, like Bermuda's getting some weather and some wind and whatever, so we went to 2 different locations in the Bahamas instead of one, and then Bermuda.
But didn't you one time go on a cruise and you couldn't go somewhere else, so you had to go to Bermuda?
Vice versa.
So twice you've tried to go.
Yeah, so the last time we tried to cruise to Bermuda, this actually ended up being like my whole entire family's aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone, like one of their favorite trips they've ever been on. But we were on a cruise. We're supposed to go to Bermuda, and it was supposed to like stay there overnight or a few days or something. I don't exactly remember. But this is important to the story. We flew to Boston, cruised out of Boston to Bermuda. Yeah. Well, there's a hurricane coming, and so I think they let us go to Bermuda for like 5 hours or something. Everyone's excursions are canceled. It's not overnight. We were supposed to be there for a few days, and so I don't think we even got off the boat, because what are you going to do in a few hours,
well,
right?
you can't get, so when you go to Bermuda, you dock outside and they have to come get you, and you can only get back to the boat on the ferry, and it's only every so often.
Oh yeah, and if you're leaving in 5 hours, you got to start boarding an hour and a half or early. It's like
exactly,
we're not doing anything. So anyways, we just stayed on the boat, and then we were thinking like, okay, well, they're going to send us somewhere else. We'll end up going to like Caribbean, Jamaica, and Bermuda or Bahamas, right? Well, no, they go, hey, we're actually going to end up going to Bar Harbor and Nova Scotia. Well, everyone on the boat's from Boston. They're all pissed. They're like, we're just going back to where we live. Well, we're from Texas. We're like, this is awesome. We've never been here. And, you know, they're two of the really coolest places, cool stops. We would have never gone there. The one weird thing is like, it's summer. You're going to, you know, Bermuda. Everyone's got shorts and t-shirts and swimsuits. Well, Nova Scotia is a little cool even in the summer. So like the boat sells out of, you know, Royal Caribbean sweatshirts or whatever it was. Like they're sold out of everything.
Right.
But it was an awesome trip. But yeah, to your point, we've tried to go cruise to Bermuda twice and it hadn't really worked out.
Never works out. I went there and actually I have a great story to tell you. I'm going to tell you my Bermuda story when we come back. Don't forget, coming up later in the program, Jamey Jasta, the band Hatebreed. God, this guy. God, he's a busy dude. But also just awesome. And if you're in or interested at all in the record industry, he's going to have some fun things to say about that. We'll be right back with more Rockstar Dad Show. Y'all listen to this. Welcome back to the Rockstar Dad Show. Don't forget, we're on Adobe Radio every single Monday at 1 p.m. No, 2 p.m. Eastern. Welcome back.
1 p.m. Central where we live.
I'm going to take that again. Welcome back to the Rockstar Dad Show. Don't forget, we're on Adobe Radio every single Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then on Wednesdays, actually really late Tuesday night, you know, really, we are on wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are listening to us on Adobe Radio, don't forget that when the interviews run long, the rest of that is on the podcast version. So if you miss some of today's, because it's a pretty long interview, you might want to go ahead and go click that subscribe button and maybe give us a great review. Gary has never gotten to go to Bermuda, and
that's not 100% true.
Oh, you've been there?
Yeah, we've also like taken a vacation where we flew there and stayed at a hotel, but just cruises don't work. Yeah.
Isn't it the most expensive place to go?
Well, I don't know. I didn't pay for it. I was a kid, but you know, I'm well traveled.
I know you are, but I didn't realize that. No, if it's what I'm thinking, I think it's the most expensive place to live, like on the planet, or like one of them. Like,
I'm sure it's up there. It's got to be up there, but like Hawaii's pretty pricey too.
Man, this place though, so clean and awesome, and you know where the ship's dock. It's you know it's nice. When we went, our kids were a little bit smaller. We the Jack and Emma couldn't go, so it was us and Everett. And then our normal vacation friends, the Pittsinger family, and we went to Bermuda. And part of what we did was an excursion where we walked down into this like big cavern. I guess that's what you call it, right? Like you go into like the guts of the earth, right? And, wow. You know, stalactites and stalagmites and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I guess the boys were probably, I guess Jack or Everett would have probably been about 5. And through you know, through your time in the said cavern, you have a tour guide, right? And so when you first get to the first stop, you go down all these stairs and we get down to the first stop and he introduces himself and he says, sorry, I was fighting a yawn there.
I heard that. Yeah.
Sorry about that. But I'm a professional rock singer, so I can fight them off. See, he starts to tell this story, and he's just like, look, here's how this place was actually found back in, you know, let's call it the early 1900s, because I'm not actually sure what it was.
Yeah.
But he says these 2 boys are out playing, you know, and they're throwing this ball around, and the ball goes into this hole, and they're like trying to reach the ball. Well, these boys find themselves crawling down into this hole to get the ball, and it just goes and goes and goes. And long story short, they end up down in this cavern and no flashlight. And it is pitch black down there, and they fall into the water. Now they're in this cavern with not a lot of steps and things and lights and things that we're, we have a little swinging bridge for us, and we have all the luxuries of cavern viewing, and they didn't have that. It's just pitch black. And in fact, they take you all the way through, and they're telling you and these boys that you could imagine swimming through here, trying to stay with each other and trying to figure out with no light at all, where they're going and how they're going to get out of this thing. And so you keep walking, and of course they tell you a few things about the different kinds of rock and, the different other things about the cavern and other, like who owns the cavern now and what, this and this, as many things as you can talk about a cavern.
Yeah.
They talked about it. And so, we got to the sort of like the last stopping point of like going there. Cause basically you go in and you come out and that's it. So going there, they're like, okay, now we're going to turn off the lights. We're going to turn off the lights for 30 seconds so your eyes can adjust, so you can see just how dark it was in here for these two boys, okay, who are in here literally floating in the water, not knowing where they are and trying to figure out how to get out of here. And we're going to turn off the lights now. Now, my wife is scared of shit like that. She doesn't like nature. She loves nature. She just doesn't like being, she doesn't like being at the mercy of nature, right? So she loves the ocean. She just is terrified of the vastness of it, right?
Sure.
And so she's pretty scared to be in this cavern in the dark. But we've gotten separated. So she's like over there, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" But Derek and Amy sort of see that I'm concerned, and they go over and they stand next to her, and that's fine. So they turn off the lights, and our eyes, they dimmed so that we're experiencing what these kids experience. And I've got Everett with me, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, it's going to be fine. They're going to turn this off, turn this back on, whatever." And he's like, "Man, it's dark in here." And so they turn the lights back on. And they're like, "Yeah, so we'll start to make our way back." Now, as you're making your way back, you'll notice that this is about this deep, and you'll notice that here they wouldn't be able to stand up, and they would have been swimming, and you're walking your way back, and so you get back to that very first point where he started the story, where about these boys and about how they got into the cavern, and so he says, as we're finishing up and about ready to head up, he says, "Does anybody have any questions?" And a couple of people raised their hands and asked a couple of questions about the cavern itself. And then he says, "Anybody else, any questions?" And my 5-year-old, Everett, raises his hands and raised his hand. He said, "Yeah, little man, what, you got a question?" And Everett goes, "So they lost their ball?" So they did make it out of there, by the way. And they went and they told somebody about it. And the people who owned that land where that entrance to the thing were actually do own that. That's theirs. And there's some water rights and some shit like that. So
I thought you were going to say that like it was a complete bullshit story about the little boys. It was just to scare all the little kids to like not be dipshits and lean over the edge.
No, it was a real story. And the fact that my child literally just wasn't listening the whole time.
What he got out of it is like there's a ball missing.
There's a ball involved, and you didn't, and that not that they were swimming for their lives,
yeah,
or that they discovered this like insane thing that the Earth does. Like,
and it's amazing that they even made it out.
It's amazing. Everything about it is amazing. It's like Louis C.K. says, like when you're in an airplane, like, do you realize how amazing it all is, But like just the fact that you walk downstairs to get into this thing that the Earth just made, and like all of the, again, stalactites, stalagmites, one goes up, one goes down. You guys have seen them on TV, and there's water there. And like just the fact that all of this even exists, and we're standing down there with light bulbs lighting the way for us and a swinging bridge that somebody made. It's all unbelievable. you know? But to him, it was just like, wait a minute, let me get this straight. They lost their ball? Man, one time we were at the zoo, and they were members of the Dallas Zoo. And I recommend going to it. The Dallas Zoo used to be terrible, but it's awesome now. The Fort Worth Zoo is great too, but being a member of the Dallas Zoo, I try to get people to go there because I want it to continue to be great. And and right now we have a baby hippo. But anyway, so we were there, and they do these things every hour in this one area where they bring out a certain animal and they talk about it. And they, these animals are sort of trained to do, whatever it is. And so this lady brings out an owl, and she's got this owl on her or whatever, and the owl is, there he is, and he's just being an owl, and so she goes through the whole thing of like, yes, they eat mice and they eat other birds, and they do this, and she's like, anybody know how they're able to go from place to place if they can't, because they can't see so good. And the guy, and this little kid that's about Everett's age, raises his hand. She's like, yeah, they got sonar, and they do all this, and he just knows all these facts about it. And there he is, and answering this question, and she's telling us this more information and more information and more information. And she's like, okay, any more questions before we wrap up? And my son Everett raises his hand, and he goes, yeah, why do they only eat turkey? And my daughter and my niece, are like young teenagers at the time, and we're both just like, oh my God. And they both just turn around and just start walking away to distance themselves from us or whatever. And she's like, oh, honey, they don't eat turkey. They, it's not birds that big. I don't think they could take down a turkey, but anyway.
Tyler is like, he's, I don't know what the right word is. He's obsessed, not quite obsessed, but he's very concerned about the fact that he's never seen an owl.
Oh,
he's
right.
like, I don't know if they exist. Like, yeah, they exist, buddy. I've seen him. He goes, well, I've never seen one.
Yeah.
And he and I were walking the dog a couple of weeks ago, and around, like, up the street from us on this other street, like, I heard an owl, is making the owl sound. I'm like, did you hear that? And he goes, no. I'm like, that's an owl. So I didn't hear it. And I'm like, well, just listen. And okay, it keeps on making the sound. And like, I figured out what yard it was in, but it's nighttime, so we couldn't see it. And so then we went home and got a flashlight and went back to the house, and I tried to like shine it in the tree and find it, and we couldn't find it. But now he's heard an owl,
okay,
but he still hadn't seen one.
Well, we got to go to the zoo. I can get us all in for free. I know a guy.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a member.
Okay, I guess that counts, but like to me,
oh, he wants to see it in the wild.
Yeah, well, I guess he's never seen one. He's been to the zoo, but in his mind, like he's never seen one.
Yeah, out there. Yeah, I have a horrible owl story, but we're running out of time, so I'll have to put a pin in that one. But yeah, I don't know.
I got an update for you.
Go, hit me.
You know how at the beginning of the show we were talking about this sunburn situation?
Yeah.
Somehow, just since we've been talking, like it's turned into an itch.
Yeah, I told you it was coming, but I didn't think it'd be here that quick. Oh, Woo! It's the worst. And especially when it's on your back, like in the one area you can't reach, and you're just like rubbing up against the side of the wall like a bear, and oh my God, it's just the worst. Well, I'm sorry about that. You need to go put some aloe on before Jamey gets on here, because coming up next, Gary and the rest of you guys, Jamey Jasta from the band Hatebreed. He's got a metal fest coming up in Milwaukee that you guys are going to want to hear about. Man, we're going to talk about being a dad. We're going to talk about the music business. We talk about all kinds of stuff. So that's coming up next. Y'all hang out and listen to this. And here we go. Whoa. Oh my God. What a start.
It was shaking in my bag.
Oh my God. Welcome back to the Rockstar Dad Show, where Jamey Jasta just opened a beverage and pretty
sprayed myself.
Yeah, it was almost like you were celebrating something all of a sudden.
Yeah, you just won the big race.
Bottles.
Yeah, which you
popping
don't do
bottles
anymore.
Like a true rock star.
You don't pop bottles anymore. Is that right?
Not for many, many years.
No, it's been a long time. Yeah, man. I first of all, I'm so glad to have you on the show, and it's been for so many years. People have told me that you and I are similar in that we're both in 4 bands. We both do podcasts, and we both do like 1,000 other things, TV, and all of these things. But I just watching you from afar, it's very inspirational, and it's very much like one of those things where you try to tell people, like, it's hard in this industry to just do one thing, and I think does that come from is it a hustle aspect, or do you just have trouble sitting still?
Well, thanks, man. No, right back at you. And it's a little bit of both. I think it's fun collaborating with people, and it keeps the other stuff fresh, and it helps you I think the collaborations and the side hustles and everything else help you when you return to the main project, so that the main project doesn't get stale. And, people who are not involved with the main project can sometimes say like, hey, what's going on with us over here? And that's understandable, but I think if your communication's good from the get-go, then everybody kind of has their expectations set. And that's one thing I've been trying to do now, like say, hey, I got a million things going on, but I want to do this. So if we want to do something together, we have to do it in this capacity, so I don't brutally disappoint you. And I can actually do my job to the best of the ability. Like we just did this thing for the TV show Poker Face.
Yeah.
It came out amazing, and we did our music is really, really prominent in episode 4. It's all throughout it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just finished that series. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's the episode with Chloe Savigny. We did pretty much, me, my partner Nick, who's he's amazing. He co-produces or produces, mixes, masters, pretty much everything I do outside of Hatebreed. And then we brought in this girl, Dana Brookman, to sing the parts that Chloe Savigny, the actress, would eventually, lip sync in the show.
Right.
And,
yeah, totally. Yeah, it's the Rockstar episode, basically.
Yeah. And so the song Staplehead, I was brought in by John Darnielle from Mountain Goats.
Right.
Who he wrote the melody and said, and I'm sure, as you know, there's some with the TV songs, it's there's always some sort of air of mystery around it.
Sure.
And and he said, they want it to be metal, but it should be it was almost like a hit song at one point.
Yeah.
And so we had our job to do, and I said, hey man, I'm really busy with all this other stuff, but I'm going to do as much as I can and really try to knock this out of the park, because obviously it's John from Mountain Goats who's incredible, but also the director, of course now I'm drawing a blank, but he's Ryan, how do you say it? Ryan Johnson, who did Knives Out. Yeah,
I thought that was Ryan Johnson. I think that is his name, because I heard him on Smartless recently, but gosh, that's so cool. That I love the fact that I didn't know that, because it's just another aspect of things that you do, which I think is so cool. But that episode was they nailed it so much, in that this band that had this enormous hit, and now they're in the clubs playing to people sitting at tables that are just yelling the name of their one song over and over, and they just can't seem to write that one song. I had a funny story for you. There's this country guy named Bart Crow down here, and we've had him on the show, and I'm actually playing with him a country show here in a couple of weeks, and nice. he has one huge hit. Now he's got a lot of other songs that have done really, really great, but he has one massive hit that hit in 2014, and one day his dad said to him, hey Bart, you ought to just write you another one of them Where My Ring songs. People seem to like that. And he was just like, yeah, Dad, thanks. I mean, I've been trying to do that every day now for 10 years.
Little did he know that you can have a fuck you dad moment whenever you're a grown adult.
Well, you absolutely nailed it, man, because Staplehead it's so silly because it sort of has that thing behind it to where it's like, how would songs become a hit because there's like some aspect of novelty and relatable aspects of it, and you nailed it because it sounded like, okay, that song used to be a big hit.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I wish we knew a little more going into it because they had kind of just said late 90s, early 2000s. So I used kind of like a little bit of that Maiden, what was their hit on that one? It was off of Wicker Man, I think, and a little bit of Avenged Sevenfold, a little bit of Dragon Force. Like, I tried to use stuff that was kind of modern, but still had that classic feel. And I asked, like, who is Staplehead? Is there a mythology? Is it like Pumpkinhead? Is it like Predator? Like, yeah. But they tied it all together really well. And our expectations, we knew going in, we're like, we could maybe not get credited, or I don't know the extent of this. Like, I don't want Nick or Dana to think like this is going to be like your big career break, because you take 100 meetings and like one thing pans out. And I did kind of go into it with the expectation of like, it might all make it onto the cutting room floor.
Sure. Yeah.
So we were blown away. We didn't even care that they didn't credit us because I'm sure there was a million like back and forth between management or whoever. And there still is. Like, we did a ton of revisions and a ton of additional like isolating the vocal, isolating this. And it was a ton of work, but just seeing it on the screen is like, it's enough for me.
TV is so much different. I mean, it's not only in just the creation of the material, but in the people that you deal with. It's just such a different animal. And it's like, I do and don't like it. Because I'm with you on the aspect of like, it's cool to see it when it's done. But like the interworkings of like talking to the 7 people on the phone, because like, well, I think that the intro could be 14 seconds. Right now it's at like 13 and a half. So could you make it a half second longer? And then Jack from the side of the book. I actually think we should be looking at like 15. And here's why. Because when he does that look over the thing and you're just in the middle of it going, I honestly don't even know what to do now. That's how it ends up being, right?
Well, yeah, and without seeing the stuff on a green screen, which really I've only done once or twice. Like, we did that for Triple X, the movie. Like when the Hatebreed song plays, we did have to edit it exactly to the scene. And shout out to Matt Hyde, who produced our Perseverance album, because without him, I would have been lost. Like, having him there, because we went to Revolution Pictures and sat there with Rob, and I was just like, all right, I'm just going to fake it till you make it, which a lot of this stuff is. And then when you do talk to certain people on some of these projects, you realize that they're faking it till they want to make
100%.
it.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because my thing is like, all right, if it doesn't get used, or if I shoot something, or if I write something, or if I film something that, and it doesn't amount to anything, at least I don't look at it as a loss. I look at it as like a learning experience, where I'll try to acknowledge those signs, like those warning signs from the gate. But going in with John from Mountain Goats, he's just such a great guy and so talented and a great songwriter on his own. And when he's sending me the phone videos of his melodies, I'm like, well, that's have to work. I just have to make sure that the notes don't clash, and that, we create this awesome sound bed, which you could maybe think, okay, 25 years ago, could this be in an arena with people chanting Staplehead? And
right.
I think it was believable enough,
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, if you haven't watched Poker Face, it's a really good show. It's sort of like a Perry Mason-y kind of thing, where it's like she solves a different crime each episode, and then it sort of climaxes at the end. We really enjoyed it. We binged that thing in a couple of days. And look, there's so many more things for me to talk to you about, but and we're talking to Jamey Jasta, of course, from Hatebreed, and would love to talk about the Dee Snider stuff. But you are here to talk about being a dad, and we'd love to know about you becoming a father. Introduce us to your family, if you don't mind.
Well, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I know everybody says that and it's cliche, but I probably wouldn't have signed to Universal and done the Ozfest and done all this stuff had I not been thrown into fatherhood and been told, all right, you have to be responsible for this person, and they're going to need to go to college, which that's a we'll get to that. She didn't want to go.
Right.
Which, depending on who you ask, it could be a good thing or a bad thing.
We talk about that a lot on this show, so I can't wait to get there. But yes, so back to when that all became a reality for you, fatherhood.
Well, yeah, and I was so young. I'm 20, about to be 21, or 21, about to be 22, and I needed a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
And whether or not you believe things are, predestined, I still don't know. All I know is I don't know. I was like, all right, I'm going to have to fake it till I make it with being a dad. And I really, I balanced, I think, the amount of touring early on to the point where it wasn't so brutal. I think as I had seen with other dads out on the road, it was still brutal, but and they're going to use it against you no matter what you do,
sure,
right? Like if you're in any sort of transient lifestyle or transient business where you have to travel and you're gonna pay. But I figured I might as well pay now.
Right. Yeah.
And be able to live a little bit more comfortably later on. People looked at me like, oh, okay, you're crazy. You're doing 300 shows. Yeah, but we're going to circle and we're going to play Poughkeepsie here. We're going to play Worcester here, and she'll come. And, like, people are like, really? You're going to bring your daughter to the Chance Theater while you're playing with Neurosis and Soulfly? but
the Chance Theater in Poughkeepsie is pretty shitty, but it's like the spot to play.
But we love it.
Yeah, we love it.
I had Jeff Tate from Queensryche on my podcast, and he was talking about like places he never wants to go and play again.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
One of them was the Whiskey, which I was surprised by that one.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't like the steps and the dressing room or whatever. And one of them was the Chance Theater. And like the Chance is like our second home. So
sure.
I love it. But, as far as missing all those little landmarks or whatever, those monuments in your life, you're going to have more of them. And if you have a positive attitude throughout, it sucks. Like, you come home and you got a fuzzy head, then you come back and she's got long hair, and the years fly by. But being able to provide certain things that I didn't have, and this is, no disrespect to my parents if they hear this or watch this,
of course
they did a good job. But and again, I apply this to life in general. I don't look at anything really as a loss. I look at it more of as like a learning experience. And I still have a great relationship with both of my parents, but I knew going into the music industry, it was like, everybody's like, you're crazy. No one does well here, especially not from hardcore and punk.
Right.
There's a lot of like, you run into these people, especially their only exposure to punk is like Sid Vicious. So they think you're done at 22 or 23.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you're 14 or 15 starting a band and you're telling people, oh no, I'm going to make it big, or I'm at least going to make a career out of it. That's crazy enough. But then when flash forward 6-7 years and they're like, wait, and you're going to have a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first song on the Perseverance album is called Proven. A lot of people think it's about our dispute with our former label, but really it was about people really close to me who said, this is going to kill the band. You having a kid is going to kill the band. And that was super hurtful to me, but it was also very inspiring in a way where I needed some spite to kick myself in the ass.
Right. When was she born?
January 25th, 1999.
1999. So, okay. So, wow. Before I was a dad, and I consider my early days as being a father. So Emma was born in 2003. And so even back up 4 years, that's even less technology. So you're still calling home from payphones with a calling card. You're still, absolutely no way for them to get in touch with you when you're in the van or on the bus or whatever, wherever you were at that time.
Not sending any videos of what's happening that day. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not getting videos of her taking her first steps or her realizing that the first tooth comes in and all of that. It's like, now it's funny because you look back on that and that's 24 years ago or whatever. And Man, that was good math. God damn. Look
Yes.
at me go. But you know, that's 23, 24 years ago. And, you know, now people wouldn't say that because because you can be on the road and be a present father and all of that. And, you know, for us, we did the opposite thing. I was like, look, I'm going to be there for my kids. So I don't want to be going longer than 2 weeks. That happened about 4 or 5 years in where I was just like, I can't do it anymore. I can't be away. But you're so right. We see bands do it the way you did it, where you're just like, man, I know that if I go out there and bust my ass now, it'll provide things both for her and for my family and the ability for me to be around more later, because this right now is when this is happening. And it's good that you had that forethought to be able to do that and the mindset to be able to miss those things, but know that it was for a good reason.
Yeah, and also just looking at the trajectory of bands that I loved growing up, and then also seeing that, I don't want to say fickle, but I guess fickle is the term for certain fans of subgenres, especially way back then. If a band was to make the jump to a major label, or if they were to try to get on bigger tours that were outside of the subculture, it could be a real tall task. And so my thinking was these moments only happen every now and then. Right. And I didn't really want to have a backup plan. But when we got to Universal, I thought, all right, some of these people, they might not have a job in 2 or 3 years.
100%. Yeah.
With LimeWire, like I had a guy telling me this LimeWire thing, you guys are gonna be fucked. Like you better get these records out right away. And he was right. Like if we should have gotten it out sooner, we probably would have had 2 gold records. Perseverance it'll creep there eventually. Well, maybe it'll get I think it's like above 400,000. But back then I was taking meetings, where people were like, your favorite records are flops. Your favorite, like I loved Brain Drain. I've told this story before, but I loved the Ramones. I went to Toad's place. They're in a van, and I'm like, wow, maybe this isn't the best. I'm thinking the Ramones has so many hits. They have the cred. I see their shirts everywhere, but they're in a van. Yeah. But then you go and you see Slayer and they're in a bus.
Right.
And you go, but they're playing Toads. They also played a place called Lake Compounds, which unfortunately I didn't get to go to the show. I heard the show was incredible. All of my friends that went were like, you're an idiot for not going. But I thought, well, that's a big venue to play.
Yeah.
So, they were kind of the blueprint.
Yeah.
But at that time, when you go and trying to sign to a label, these labels will go, well, Ramones don't sell records. But I was like, yeah, but they have the hits and the cred. So so we were faced as a band, we were all faced with like these crossroads of decisions. Like, okay, well, if that's the worst case scenario, you're still the Ramones. I mean, no one can take that from you. And so we were like, well, could we be the Ramones of like metallic hardcore, or could we be Slayer? And
it's such
kind of the goal,
Those genres, though, even now, all of the genres and subgenres or whatever. And it's like, for us, it's very interesting because people have taken, pop punk and punk rock and all of these things and screamo and they basically just called it all emo, and none of us were emo at all. And in fact, like we're pre-emo and we're the furthest thing from it. We're so happy that I can't imagine you calling us something that is based upon the word emotional, but it's so strange that like it just continues to happen, and there's all these things. And I was looking at your Wikipedia even, and it's like, yes, because I do a lot of research for this show, Jamey, by the way. And it's just like best known as the lead singer for metalcore band Hatebreed and sludge metal band Kingdom of Sorrow. And you also front the metalcore band Ice Pick. But before that, you were in the hardcore band Jasta 14. And you're just like, what are the little intricacies that make all of those that different that they need a different word to describe what they are?
Oh my God, it drives me crazy. And for a long time, people really would hold your feet to the fire to give them a set definition.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, you could really feel the wrath. Like, how dare you say they're a metal band? Well, look, that first Slayer tour where everybody said, "Oh, you're screwed. You're gonna get Slayerized, or you're gonna get a shitty reaction," like other bands did. When we went out and they started chanting Hatebreed, I thought, who the fuck cares what you call it? If it's thrash, if it's crossover, if it's hardcore. Plus, I grew up going to see like bands like Exploited, Biohazard, Typo Negative, Agnostic Front. They came through with death metal bands. They toured with like Malevolent Creation and Cannibal Corpse and Obituary, and sure, there were, you know, the hardcore guys and the punk rock guys and the straight edge kids that thumbed their nose up at that, and they didn't like the higher door price, or they didn't like the higher t-shirt prices and stuff. But at some point, you have to just do whatever you are able to do to pay your bills and provide for your family, and stay true to the fans that stick with you. But you know, I'm all the bands from your era and even right before, I think, like if I'm remembering correctly, like the Goldfingers and the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and the Less Than Jakes, everybody dealt with the same thing that we dealt with in metal and the heavier side of hardcore. And I'm sure that some of these bands are dealing with, like, I see people, you know, fighting about whether or not Motionless in White is still metalcore. No, they're new metal.
Yeah.
They sold out metalcore. It's like, well, no, they just added some different tones and maybe they changed the tuning slightly, but they didn't sell out metalcore. They just got bigger and more popular, and maybe you sold them out. Like, that's the thing that's really hardest, I think, for the fans who are really, really married to these subgenres is, did the band give up on you, or did you give up on the band?
100%. Yeah. It's the, you know, it's the age old, you know, I call it Green Day disease, because it's like, you know, as long as I was getting bootleg cassettes, I absolutely loved Green Day, you know, and then all of a sudden when the guy from my college class that, you know, never showed up because his parents were rich started listening to Green Day, I was just like, whoa, hold on just a second. That's not for me anymore. And I had a 2-year thing of like, yeah, I don't really like them anymore. Then I'm just like, shit, I missed my favorite album, which is Insomniac, because I was being a dick.
Yeah,
you know?
You miss 4 records, and then you go back and you're like, wait, those 4 records were exactly what I liked. It was me being stupid.
It was me being stupid. And you learn that with age. So funny you'd mention Agnostic Front, because I'm an 80s kid. I was born in 72. So, you know, going through, like, I remember, like, you know, getting into, I really liked, you know, I was very, Testament was my favorite band in the world for many, many, many years. But, you know, you mentioned like Agnostic Front and Sick of It All and Corrosion of Conformity and bands like that. When you're in Wichita Falls, Texas, you don't know that they're not the same kind of music. Like, there's all we knew is like, oh, well, that's heavy too. So we listened to that too. Like, we listened to Suicidal Tendencies and had no idea they weren't a metal band. You know, it was just, and it's it's so interesting when you're not in the know. Your mind is a little bit more open, I think. You know,
I agree, and I think the bands that are not in the know go farther, because it's like, that's a good way to put it. But it's also, I don't want to do any of those bands a disservice, because I know a lot of those bands that kind of paved their own lane, but were fans of heavy stuff. Like, if you look at a band like System of a Down, they all listen to different, like, really crazy underground shit. Shavo likes hip hop, Darren likes, you know, black metal and hardcore and punk, and Serge likes, you know, all these different things. But I remember us playing at the Whiskey, and somebody with them gave us their tape.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like, seeing it being on American, I was like, how do they, you know, what scene is this? Like, how do they bypass being on an indie label? But then I thought, oh wait, there is no scene, so they're not pigeonholed.
Sure. Yes.
So their reach will be huge.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to the cassette, and it was, I think Sugar was on there and one other song. It was like one of those like street team promo singles, and we put it in the van. And I thought, well, it's got the heavy, like Sugar, it's got the heavy breakdown at the end. So right there, that's going to grab like the metal guys. It's got the crazy poppy, weird Dead Kennedys kind of punky chorus. So I was like, it's no scene. So that becomes a scene.
Right. Yeah, you're so right.
Sure enough, by the time we, you know, ended up doing like some arena shows with them, and I remember we're playing where the Oilers fucking played in Edmonton, and I'm looking out and there's like gotta be at least 12,000. I don't know what that place holds, but I would say at least 10, 12,000 people. And they're going fucking crazy for System of a Down. And I just remember thinking about getting that cassette outside the whiskey, however many years earlier, and going, there you go. No scene is kind of like a blessing in a weird way, because then you're not married. You know, we all have seen those bands that they're going to stay. It's when keeping it real goes wrong.
Right. You're so right. Yeah.
And you're going to stay true to that scene, and that scene will be so quick to just fucking be like, nope, see you later. I'm on to the next.
When you don't have that scene, you can also pick off the open-minded kids from all the other scenes.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's our local band story, though, because we sounded like we were from California in the late 90s, and we weren't. We're from here. So we're playing with all these literally rap metal bands. Rap metal was what was huge here in Dallas at the time. And you know, but the Toadies were breaking, and Tripping Daisy, and, you know, all of that was going on. But there's nothing nowhere that sounded like us. And Nothing Anywhere. Nothing Nowhere is kind of a good name for an album, though. There's nothing anywhere that sounded like us. And it was like that. You're exactly right. We didn't feel like we needed to fit into any sort of scene because there wasn't one. Never thought about it that way.
Who was your A&R on that first record?
So we signed to Jive Records. So we were our A&R person was Howie Abrams, who
Howie. Okay, yeah,
he's huge in the underground New York scene. So you probably have met him 1,000 times.
Yeah, shout out to Howie. What year was that? Because I remember going and taking a meeting at Jive.
Yeah, he signed us in 99. The first record came out in 2000, and like we had to hold on for dear life because we were on an album. So our story is a little bit weird because you even mentioned like Goldfinger, Real Big Fish. Well, after Jive signed us, they bought Mojo, but they didn't put us on Mojo. They left us on Jive. So we were with Britney Spears and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and R. Kelly, while, you know, this other label over here existed, and they actually had, you know, as I said, bands that we had a little bit more in common with. So it was a bit of a fight because we, you know, not a bit, but it was a fight, you know, to just stay afloat. But, you know, as Howie stepped in and you know, right from the get-go, and was a member of this band, and, you know, we fought that fight for 10 years. But yeah, what was your meeting like at Jive Records? I wonder who was it with?
I don't want to get in. Well, what is statute of limitations on like some of these meetings? Because I guess it's kind of known now that they would, I guess what's the term, upstream. They would like with Bullet for My Valentine. It was on Trust Kill, but really it was Jive.
That's right. So and then they also bought Volcano. So they had Tool. They had, exactly. They had Bullet for My Valentine. The same people that were working Girl the Bad Guys Want in 1985 were working Bullet for My Valentine songs. 100% accurate. Yeah, it's right. You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
But the illusion to the public had to be that it was this, you know, band from the UK signing to this metalcore label because metalcore was having this trajectory, but it was also being held to this fire by the scene as like, don't get too big or don't be signed, you know. And with us and Thursday and AFI and anybody who was really heavily touring that punk circuit, I mean, we did squats, we did people's backyards, we played at like collectives, like anarchist collectives and stuff, which was hard for us because it was like, you're too metal for the straight edge and the punk and the hardcore scenes, but you're too hardcore for the metal and the death metal and the power metal or whatever the hell was, you know, the other metal scenes. But at that time, you know, if you came out with a good record, all was forgiven. And so we kind of lucked out, us, Thursday, AFI, and even like bands like Taking Back Sunday. I think when they made their jump to the major, it wasn't like that record didn't feel like manipulated by an A&R guy or manipulated by a producer or a team of people that wanted to grab this wider audience. If anything, people were like, especially with us, people were like, oh man, they didn't go for it. Like they didn't they sound exactly the same. What the fuck? And
you're right.
Like, when you try to please everybody, you're going to please nobody. So you just please yourself, really.
Yeah. Eventually, the freaking hot dog stand starts to have dessert when everybody starts to ask. When everybody's asking for it, they carry brownies, right? So the pop label was like, everybody wants this heavy shit. We've got to figure out a way to get into it. And they were a $4 billion independent label at the time. You know, he sold that. And he sold it for $4 billion with a B, listener. Like Clive Calder bought a fucking island and nobody's seen him since.
I know. And that's why I say now, like, and this ruffles some feathers, but anytime these bands can sign to one of these smaller labels, even if it's just a license or a distribution deal, if you're going to license your record, say for like 7 or 10 years, you should always ask for some equity. And Hatebreed's free agents right now. So any label offering equity, we'll check it out. Otherwise, do it on your own and buy your own island. Like we
exactly.
We did one record with Roadrunner. And if anybody from Roadrunner, if Case Wessels hears this or sees this, if you'd be so kind to give us our master back, we would love it, because you didn't believe in it when we needed you to. But yet you still own it in perpetuity, which makes no sense. And other than that, I think we need to, I don't know, maybe we need to start our own lobby group, and we need to get these politicians to change the law so that none of these contracts are in perpetuity.
Yeah.
And that, say, after like 5 or 10 years, you get your intellectual property back. I mean, that could get you in big trouble for saying something like that on a nationally syndicated podcast like this.
But to that same topic, it's funny because when we re-recorded our first greatest hits, we recorded our first 10 years of songs that it's actually called Songs People Actually Liked Volume 1. And it's got the first, it's got like the early songs that people gravitate towards, the songs that got us a record deal, and then the first batch of hits. And, but when we first did that, it was several years ago, and we were like, I mean, the public didn't really have an understanding of this whole masters argument yet, you know? And so we were having to say, well, no, we're just doing it because it's been a really long time, and sonically we wanted to make the songs a little bit better, but we're leaving them intact. But quite frankly, we just want people to listen to our versions because we own them. And then Taylor Swift comes out and just blankets it and goes, no, I'm doing it so that I can own these things. And we're like, yes, that's why we did it too. Here's volume 2, by the way.
Yes.
And it's got all the really good songs on.
Yeah, I love that you guys did that. And I've been a supporter of this idea since my podcast first came out. And it was met with a lot of vitriol, but now 70-something years into it, 600-something episodes, people are coming around, and it's great because, and I would use Steven Tyler as an example, because I remember I was somewhere and I'm watching TV, some hotel, and I'm like, wait, that's not that Dream On. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like the album version of Dream On. And then I'm like, oh, so I start asking around, and then someone says, well, yeah, now that he re-recorded it and he owns the master, when someone wants to go to us to get a sync and they want to pay X amount of dollars, but the old label with the other master wants 10 times that.
100%.
Well, and it's one of those things that people just don't understand. We talked a few weeks ago on the show about how people don't understand that at the venues are taking a share of merch, right? And you put some transparency in there and people support the band. It's the same thing here. People just think that, you know, buying your song, playing your song, supporting you, but they don't understand that you don't own your songs, right?
Sure. Yeah. And they see it.
When you re-record it, they want to support you.
Yeah, I should have. I went off on a tangent, but I should have said, you know, Case ended up from Roadrunner. He ended up buying a castle, supposedly.
Yeah, no, that's not a tangent at all. Well, that's another bit of how that was Howie Abrams' first job, by the way, was that Roadrunner, like doing the hardcore stuff back then. I mean, that guy's been through it all. You guys, I know you guys definitely have met many times. But,
yeah, and there's an argument there to say like, well, hey, you know what? Slipknot paid for your record, or Nickelback paid for your record, and I know whatever I know that some of these labels, the accounting can be a little. I'm not I'm not claiming anything, but I'm just saying, like, I've heard that the accounting can be a little wonky. But like, if you're recouped and if they're not actively promoting it, but you're out here still playing the songs that they told you weren't hits,
100%
that did become hits, that people have the lyrics all over the world, they have them tattooed on their body.
Yeah.
You know, you'd think we could have it back. And
our second biggest record is out of print, and they won't print more. And but they are playing ball, and we're gonna put out vinyl, and that's great. But for all this many years, people just couldn't fucking get it. Yeah. And it's like, you guys don't want anything, just give it back to us. Let us go and do something with it. As you said, we're promoting this every single night by playing Girl the Bad Guys Want, by playing, what, I don't want to flex here. If you're a new listener, I don't want to name all my hits, you got the
catalog and you're keeping the catalog alive. And what happens when Taylor Swift or the next Taylor Swift goes, you know what? I love Bowling for Soup and I want to fucking cover this song. Yeah. Now you're splitting it with shareholders or people who bought the label or whatever, that don't know you, that had no skin in the game.
Yep.
And that's a whole other.
It's a whole other pot. The business side of this basically is what we're trying to tell you guys. Is so complicated, and they make it so complicated and overly complicated for all of us. And we all sign when we're young, and we don't know what we're signing. And we end up in a situation. For us, we end up in a situation 20 years later where we've never made money off of an album before, and our manager goes, "Whoa, let's dive into this here. Something is wrong, and something was wrong." And
and it relates to parenting because you can tell your children that if they're a creative person, they should always retain the rights and fight for the ability to make royalties and make passive income from their creative works, no matter what lane it's in. And so I say this for anybody who's interested in filmmaking or writing. It could be painting, it could be poetry, whatever you have in you that's expressive, that's creative, that you want to share with the world. Don't discount it by giving it to fucking non-creative widget counting demons,
right?
Who fucking have no skin in the game and who come from generational wealth and literally could lose their job tomorrow, and they're just going to go get hired at another company. They're going to make even more. The failing upward was something that I really blew my mind in that system too.
Yep.
Was, wait, so you signed all these bands, they all flop. Then you go get another job for more money, sign more bands that all flop. But I strike gold and I'm like arguing for peanuts and crumbs and so
the only thing that it equates to is NFL coaching. It's like you draft all these fuckers, your team is dog shit, and then you just go to another team and they pay you a bunch of money. It's the same thing. And but you're so right. And they look, it's funny. We talk about labels as like them, and there are good things that they can do, as you said
there's
earlier.
Still good labels, and there's labels out there that are signing really, really cool artist-friendly deals right now. So I don't want to sound too bitter or jaded. And anybody who's coming over here from my podcast who's already so fatigued by the music business talk, I get it.
Yeah, totally.
It's an ear beating, and all we're trying to do is have people avoid the same pitfalls. And I understand 100%. For the people who are like, fuck that, I had to fall in the fucking pit, they do too. Rob Zombie was on my show and he said that. He didn't even want to really get into it. He goes, listen, I had to get fucked over. Why don't they? And I'm like, that is another way of thinking about it, which I do understand. But that's not what I want to put out right now.
I don't see it that way. I see it as like, why should they continue to benefit from just the lack of understanding and the lack of knowledge of these creative people?
I think like just the being a good person goes against the I got fucked over, why should they? But then forget that. If your mindset is I got fucked over, so why shouldn't they? then you're protecting the people that fucked you over.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Right. Well, we could go down that whole Geffen rabbit hole if you want.
Well, you know what? We've kept you longer than we said we would, and we haven't even talked about you being a parent. So that just means you got to come back on the show soon. And,
I would love to. Yeah, no, I was really thrilled that you invited me on, and I rarely do other podcasts, and so now this month I've done 2.
Awesome,
and they've been a lot of fun, and I appreciate the opportunity to just promote what I have going on, because I'm so deep in this Milwaukee Metal Fest thing. If anybody wants to come to Memorial, the rave in Milwaukee, the Rave Eagles Club, it's Memorial Day weekend. It's 75 bands, and it's one of the first artist-owned festivals in America. Not the first, but one of the first.
Right.
And I hope that it's the first of many. And you know what? If Kevin Lyman's watching this, because we've both done Warped Tour, and thank you, by the way, I heard that I heard from multiple people that you said nice things about us on stage when you played.
I did. You were such a genius. You made city-specific Warped Tour shirts, and I'm just like, how can I not buy the Hatebreed Dallas Warped Tour shirt? And so I got it, and I wore it, and I promoted your show that night, and because you guys drew the last straw. Y'all were on, I think, at 6 o'clock that night, and but we were there with bells on watching you guys, and of course, dude, I mean, we're all fans, and it's the least I could do.
I appreciate it. And
dude,
I was gonna say, like, we should talk to Kevin, and I think 10, 12, 20, I don't know, artists could get together, pool their money, buy the rights to the Warped Tour, and bring it back on a small scale. And I'll probably piss some people off by saying this, but instead of having 70 bands, of which 50 might not have the best draw in some of these markets, let's just have 20. And here's the pitch. Are you ready?
Yes, you're speaking my language.
AFI, Newfound Glory, Thursday, Taking Back Sunday, Bowling for Soup, Sum 41, Hatebreed, Sick of It All, Agnostic Front, Rancid, and then like maybe No Effects if we could get Mike down with the call. I don't know how much longer they're gonna do it, right?
Because they're on their way out. On their way out. He's retiring to Vegas. Listen, Jamey, I'm going to send you my number, and this is actually a conversation. No shit. That we've been having for years with certain promoters. And I actually think it doesn't have to be 20. I think it can be 7 with a great side stage of another 7 or 10. And you're doing sheds. So essentially, you're just promoting the main stage and one side stage of the same exact thing that people loved so much. And still, you got the bands doing their tents, and you bring out all of the charities and all of the same vibe. It's just, that's just it, man. Like, it doesn't need to be a pop punk fest. It doesn't need to be a hardcore fest. It needs to be a music fest that is for that Warped Tour generation of these cross generational, kinds of music, and no labels put on anything. Let's just go out there and have a good time. And, we get in the pit during Hatebreed and during Bowling for Soup. We wave our arms in the air and sing along and throw plastic dolls in the air and shit. Yeah. And we have a great time. And so you're spot on, man.
It needs to be done. And there was talks a few years back. Like, I think it might have actually been right after that Warped Tour, like maybe 2018, 2019. There was talks. It never happened, but they were going to do Slayer and Rancid. This was the tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, this is genius, because what you're doing is you're saying Ozfest meets Warped Tour, but you're going to draw both audiences, and the audiences will work fine. But and you're going to fill sheds, because we've seen now, like when, Rob Zombie goes with Alice Cooper, or when Mudvayne goes with Rob Zombie, or whatever, we've seen all the different combinations where 4 bands can fill a shed.
Yeah.
And they prove that you don't need, and I'm not trying to exclude the smaller bands, because obviously we'd want some smaller bands to come and gain that audience and be the headliner of 2039 or
of
whatever.
course, yeah, and that's the idea. That was the beauty of Warped Tour, and I think that's the beauty of scaling it down, is that there's discovery aspect of it, and then there's this band, there's the headliners aspect of it. So you've got
you can have the discovery, you can have the current, you can have the nostalgia all in one.
100%, and that's it. It's the big three of Warped Tour, so to speak. But
and we'll even have an industry plant or two if we.
Yeah, we'll put a TikToker on there. Come on, guys. Everybody get in there. All right, so you said spreading the word. So tell everybody where they can find you and just the Reader's Digest version of what you're up to.
Yeah, it's Jamey with an EY on all social media. Jamey Jasta, Jasta. I got the Jasta Show podcast. I have a couple little side podcasts too. I have a movie podcast called How Awesome Is This?, which both of you guys are welcome to come on anytime you want. But I'm just warning you, the Seagal movies and the JCVDs, you never get that time back. You thought touring for 300 days of the year was bad. Well,
yeah, trust me. I did a movie podcast for 8 years. I just ended it at 300 episodes, and
I gotta go check it out.
We're done. But there are some of those movies. Exactly, you watch it for the thing, and you can never get that time back, and it's brutal. And Seagal, also, where I found you, JameyJasta.com. All your stuff's right there, and you actually answered me when I emailed you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. And I got this record coming out, and Jasta for All is the name of the record.
Nice. Will there be bass on it?
There is bass on it. And we did try to get Newstead. We did reach out to him. Oh, man,
that would have been amazing.
But I got Scott Ian, Chuck Billy from Testament, who I know you're a fan of.
Yes.
Zetro's on there. It's just a love letter to thrash. It's just a fun record. I'm not really like taking myself that seriously, but it's a really fun thrash record, and it's fully like fan funded, and it's going to be totally indie. I'm hoping to actually have it out by Milwaukee Metal Fest. I can announce here that we're going to do a pre-party.
Nice. And that's Memorial Day, right?
Memorial Day weekend.
So pre-party
sweet on the Thursday. And nice. Paul Bostaff from Slayer is going to come out and do some Slayer songs with me. And,
nice.
We're going to have a bunch of special guests. It's going to be a real good time. There's going to be meet and greets, signings, food trucks. I do have a question for you, though, before we go. Like, is magic metal? Like, could I get away with having a magician at Milwaukee Metal Fest?
100%. And here's why. Because I think I've always thought that we should have a comedian on our tour, like that, like does 20 minutes and then comes on in between bands and does 10 and MCs the show. And I think for the same reason you could do it that way. But what at issue would be, so you're gonna be in like a club environment, right? Is that
a club and a ballroom and then like a bar? Yeah. Actually, yeah, like 2,000 caps and then like a 5,000 caps.
So as long as there's a screen, people fucking love that shit. We had magicians on our 25th anniversary. We had magicians walking around just doing card tricks for people. Like, it was awesome, and people loved it.
Yeah, everyone loves that shit.
Yeah. Everybody loves a magician, right?
They love
a magician will steal your girl at the show, right?
100%. And you don't know what happened. It's magic.
I did know a girl that David Blaine, I think, swooped in at one point. So,
and you'll never know how he did it.
He's Mr. Steal Your Girl, I think.
Oh my God. Jamey Jasta, thank you so much, man. This is probably my favorite episode ever. And
thank you guys.
You're just
too kind. No, I really appreciate the time, and I appreciate the invite, and yeah, shout out to all the dads out there.
Yes,
yeah, and like Jaret said, we forgot to get too deep in the dad stuff. We haven't heard your college stuff.
Oh, well, I'll tell you this much. You pay a fine to try to get that money out.
Yeah.
And we're doing a home renovation project right now, and she's amazing. She designed the kitchen. She designed the bathrooms, like the wallpaper. Wallpaper's back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Believe me, my wife wants to put it in our house, and I'm like, we literally built this house so it would never have to have wallpaper. Like, it's a whole undertaking.
Yeah, we did the demo and took down the old wallpaper. That was hard enough with the lath underneath it.
Yeah,
I might have to start a hardcore home improvement podcast.
Oh, there you go. But hold on, don't put a label on it like that, because genre-specific contractors will not like that. You
How
can't.
come it's not post-hardcore?
Why?
God damn it.
Jamey
Yeah,
Jasta, thanks for being on the Rockstar Dad Show, man. We'll see you soon.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know. Some rockstar dads who started a show. Until the next episode.